All right, guys. My name is Kyl Reber, and you are tuned into episode 1 of the COVID conversations. With me on my right or left, or however you see your screen, is my good mate and long-time friend, Mr. Peter, or as I like to call him, Poiter Smedley. And yes, he has a Cosmic Psychos hat on that is a hand with a bone giving someone the finger. Peter is from Balnarring in Victoria on the beautiful Mornington Peninsula. Him and I met probably, I think, the better part of maybe 10 plus years ago, probably even pushing 15, doing some martial arts. And I would say we probably instantly found out that we had a lot more in common than just martial arts, music and Cosmic Psychos being one of them. But he has a very big background in this sort of stuff. He has done a fair bit of work in radio. He's got a very lucrative martial arts club. However, it's a little bit on the down low at the moment due to recent events. And yeah, he has that face for radio, so you have to excuse him. He said he had to wear a hat today. He only put the hat on a couple of minutes ago because he's growing a mohawk. And if you take that hat off, if you were to take that hat off, you would see it's definitely a work in progress. But Peter, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Kyle.
You've got your coffee. You've got a far more complex coffee than I have.
There's very few people know that I'm working on something under this hat. And it's not going well.
Not anymore. All right. So, Peter, now you're my first victim on this. So this is more or less just a conversation to just get a little bit about you, how things are going and what's happening in your life, but also maybe just, I guess, delve into maybe a little bit of information that not maybe everybody knows about Peter Smedley without giving too much away and incriminating yourself and getting a knock on the door half an hour from now. So tell me, our first question that I have that we'll use, so the barbecue intro, as I like to call it. So I walk up to you at a barbie and I say, "G'day, my name's Kyle." And you say, "My name's Poiter." And I say, "What do you do?" And tell us a bit about yourself, Peter. 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm a martial arts instructor and also a strong music advocate as well. So my wife is now calling me an entrepreneur. I come out of a solid fresh produce background and growing up on an apple orchard down here on the Mornington Peninsula, I branched out and cut my teeth in business, representing my family and so forth, and travelled a lot. And, you know, beginning martial arts at an early age, that stuck to me like glue, and it just became my thing that I did wherever I was, you know, whatever part of the country I was in, whatever country I was in. And, you know, I spent a lot more time and years working in the fresh produce industry before I cut myself loose from working at 1 or 2 in the morning and opened up my own martial arts school just because I wanted to start teaching again, and it grew underneath me and has now become an incredible lifestyle that I still can't believe that I do now. So self-employed, do I work? No, not a day.
Not much at the moment.
No, but I refuse to actually call it work. It's something that I love that I've got the opportunity to be able to do.
Yeah. How long have you been teaching martial arts full time?
Full time. The school that I opened up recently has just clicked over 12 years. And I was doing 2 jobs at the start because it was only going to be a hobby on the side, but then it grew and grew and grew, and it actually. So
it was a gradual progression?
Sorry?
It was a gradual progression?
Yeah, it was. It was. I remember I opened up over Easter, and I was hoping to have about 10 students. I said, "Oh, that'd be cool if I have 10 students." By the end of the year, I had 30 students. And I went, "Well, okay." So I did it, kept going, and then the numbers came up so much that the fellow that I was doing 3 days a week buying produce for down here on the peninsula, he wanted to upgrade me and move me into more of a busier role, more of a managerial role. And the day he started talking to me about that, I gave him notice, and I said, "Man, you know, the business that I've got going behind the scenes here is actually outweighing what I do for you now." And he goes, "Oh, can I pay him on?" I said, "No." I said, I just see a massive opportunity for me to change my life here.
Yeah.
And I also thought, you know, if I take all that energy that I put into working at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning for long hours and everything I put into that, and I take that and put it into my passion, into my business of martial arts, it's only going to grow. And that's what it has done.
Yeah. And would you say that there's never been a regret? There's never been a, did I make the right choice? Or has it given you a life that you never thought that you would actually have?
Yeah. I don't feel any regret or, no, I've only done great things since I made that change many years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now that I know you at the barbecue, what
You want a beer, mate?
Yeah. You know you don't have to ask me. What so, and this is something that I put in my script for you guys, and I will be doing it for more. What's something you're passionate about?
Something I'm passionate about.
This could be anything.
You know, I thought long and hard about this morning because you nudged me with this question. You know, and I could get really sentimental and say I'm really passionate about making a difference in my community. That's one thing that I'm really passionate about. But I want to talk about something else that I'm really passionate about, and I just keep drawing myself back to, and I mentioned it earlier in this interview today, that live Australian independent music is something that I'm really passionate about, because I believe that the creativity and the risk taking by some musicians and artists and performers create the roots to which mainstream music is grown on.
Yeah.
You know, that little garage band that has a bit of a go and comes up with a song and is just really a bit of a piss take about workers and Aussie, you know, linguistics and stuff, like the Chats, when they start doing a song
I was just about to say.
Called Smoko. There's milk crates in there. There's so many iconic Australian
All I
things.
crave is a good pub feed.
Those guys have gone gangbusters overseas.
Yeah.
They are now influencing bands throughout Australia. They go, wow, they're awesome. They're so good. I want to be a bit like them. And away we go. And it eventually filters through until Mr. and Mrs. Mainstream hear it on commercial radio.
Yeah.
So passionate about that is, I suppose here I've just expressed that as well. But I've been involved in doing events in my community and around the area. Not massive events like big day out style things or even festival hall style things, but grassroots punk rock style events that we've done down here on the Mornington Peninsula. They've been greatly successful and we're onto a really good recipe right now.
So from someone who's, I mean, I've worked in that industry for a fair while as well. I know how much time and effort, sometimes unnoticed, it goes to putting that stuff together. Is that something that, you know, once this all clears up, maybe you'll see where else we can sort of take that and try and kick it off again?
You know, I went for a drive this morning. I went surfing this morning, you know, and thank you for the opportunity of letting me go do that, Kyl. We had this all teed up to be a bit earlier. But
we were going to go earlier, but Pete wanted to go for a surf. So who am I to get in the way of that?
It was on, you know.
Apparently.
Anyway, I was thinking about that, and I was listening to a band that's just released a new album, and for marketing reasons, I'm not going to say who it is, because one of the events we do down here, we don't let on who's going to play, and that's part of it. But I was listening to their music, and I thought, man, we've got to get these guys down. It's like they're on my bucket list, Kyl. We will get these guys. There's 2 or 3 others out there as well. So if you say, is there a projection forward? Absolutely, mate. This little snaz gig that we've got going on down here, we can be so creative with it. And the people that I work with doing it are just as passionate as me and just as creative and are driven to not make money out of it. It's a not-for-profit thing. We just do it because people around us love it and we love doing it as well and bringing something unusual to our community.
Yeah, and I think that's the machine that, you know, like, and I always love doing the gigs of those independent artists and that, because they had such a devoted cult following and they were just you know, your psychos as an example, you know, there are guys that just have a wardrobe full of Cosmic Psycho shirts. Do you know anybody like that, Peter? So I always loved seeing, because they were so well, I mean, they were just so respectful of the artist in the show. Like, they just, you know, they all looked after each other. It was a really good show. And just, yeah, independent artists, I think it's great to see that, you know, they develop that following, and who knows, they just turn into something big.
Sort of rounding this off a little bit as well, I curate and organise the entertainment for our local primary school that my kids have gone to. And it's called the Summers Arts Fair. And years ago, it started out with just, you know, art on the walls, and they'd do an auction, and they'd have a glass of wine and so forth. And they said, "Oh, Pete, can you come in and, you know, look after the entertainment?" Because they would get somebody to play guitar or something like that. And I said, "Well, what's the budget?" And they went, "A budget? You want it? You want a budget?" And I said, "Yeah, I want a budget." We made some changes, and one of the main things that I took out of taking on that entertainment that I've done now for, I don't know, 8 years or something now, is that the word art, and I look around at that community and I think you guys need to be exposed to as much musical art as I can produce while I'm here. It'd be easy for me to just roll in garage band after garage band, because that's my clique, you know. But I've done nothing but drag in blues, reggae, experimental, which rocked their world a little bit as well, to what would you say, like even mainstream country and western, some jazz style music as well out of the city, you know, so tight haircuts, white shirts, that sort of thing, to rockabilly. I just keep chasing genres, because I think not only do the kids of the school need to be exposed and shown that there's so many different genres and so many feelings they can get from this, that the community needs that as well. I don't want them to just say, "Oh, what cover band has he got this year?" You know,
it's how we find our groove too, mate. I mean, like, you know, I used to love seeing all the different stages at big day outs. Like, you know, I'd spend more time than I was probably meant to at the lily pad, just seeing all these little interesting acts. And then you get a band at the boiler room. And what was always interesting for me was when you had a band that would maybe, and I was watching this on a Coachella documentary I watched a couple of weeks ago, a band that previously maybe would have, say, headlined their dance stage is now headlining their main stage, because they've just worked their way into such a mainstream, and they're really just bringing all the people together. And I think that's really cool, that you just, you know, like, you might be opening up Pandora's box. You might have a kid watch that and go, "I've officially found what I want to do with my life." Thank you. You know, so I think that's really cool, man. What so here's the one. What's on your bucket list?
Oh man.
Oh, take a swig. Is there still coffee in it, or have you switched it?
It's going cold, but it's still good, you know.
It's always good.
Bit of homemade
so the question, so the question that we will be using on here, it's one thing I thought about to maybe get to know people a little bit better, because you can tell a lot, I think, about someone from this question. What is one thing that is on your bucket list? Now, on the bucket list, it's got to be something that's really, what have you done?
The first thing I've got on my bucket list is to plug my charger into this laptop. So, hang on a second.
I'll be talking. God, there's some great pictures.
Look amongst yourselves for a moment, folks.
This is live interviewing at its best, people.
I remember I used to do community radio, and yeah, stuff would go wrong as well. And, you just have to say, bear with me just for a moment. Do not adjust your sets. Far out, man. And
now I'll walk in the Black Forest. The question that we have is something, and when I say a bucket list, it's something that maybe it's unachievable at the moment, but now it's going to be maybe achievable. Have you found it yet? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. And we're back. Hallelujah.
You know what that's like? You know, when your laptop says, "Your power is running low," and I'm going, "Not now. No." Right, I'm sorry, Kyle. Sorry for the distraction.
That's all right, mate. This is live interviewing at its best. I love this shit.
Entertainment.
Right, go for it.
So my bucket list, I thought long and hard about this. There's a couple on there.
Was it when you were surfing again?
Yeah. Yeah, I was sitting out in the water, and you're just waiting for a set, and I'm going, wow, I know he's going to ask me about his bucket list. And there's a few things, it'd be easy for me to turn around and say, I'd love to see my kids grow up and do that. That's on a bucket list. I think we've all got those. But when I need to break it down to the small things that I need to do in my life, that is different to everybody else as well, I guess. I really want to see Europe. I have never been to Europe, but I am really keen to go to Europe and see the architecture and smell the culture and see cities and establishment that's been around a lot longer than anything else I've seen in my life, having grown up in Australia. So that is something I'm really keen to do. I like to go and see art and sculpture, and I'm a big fan of architecture as well.
So is there something that's prompted you to have that sort of thought process? Like, is there, because there would be some, and this is why I asked the bucket list question, because what's on your bucket list for somebody else is like, that's not even remotely there. So why is that a bucket list thing?
Probably because I gave up that opportunity to go to Europe when lots of people in their 20s, they got out of high school or they got out of uni and they jumped on a Kon-Tiki tour, or they, disappeared overseas for a little while. I didn't.
Did you go and do the work for a living thing?
I went and worked for a living, and I bought a house.
Yeah.
And I bought a house during the recession, Paul Keating's recession. When somebody had to sell a house, that was an opportunity for me to get into the market. And so I did. And, it's looked after me really well, but I haven't been to Europe.
Yeah.
That's something.
So now you feel it's a bit of a catch up?
Yeah, I just figure I'll probably get a better opportunity at the back end of my life to go to Europe rather in the earlier part of my life.
Is there a place in particular?
Definitely Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Germany. Austria would be good. We've got a good friend who lives in Serbia. I would love to go to Serbia.
That guy. For those of you who don't know, we're talking about Alex Kostic, one of our, our martial arts mentors. So yeah, he's always been harping at us to come over there. He's got a beautiful place in Serbia.
And he's such an interesting guy to talk to. He'd be a great fella for you to get on your.
He's on the list, mate. He's on the list.
Yeah, I would love to just hang out with him and hear about the history of Serbia and the middle block countries of Europe as well, through his life and his ancestors and so forth as well. I reckon that'd be fascinating. And just a small one, I don't want to rabbit on about it too much, but I'd also like to go to Japan and specifically Okinawa and go and have a good look at where the roots of karate come from.
I think for any old school martial artist, that's almost a rite of passage, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'd like to go there, and I'd like to purchase a couple of swords for my own personal reason as well.
That's a good one. That's a good one. It's funny how so much focus is on such a little place with that, isn't it?
Yeah. I've heard quite a bit about it, and I've read a fair bit about it. And while it only relates mildly to what you and I do, Kyl, it was I suppose, an intrinsic part of the development of modern martial arts as well.
Well, yeah. If it wasn't for that place, I mean, God. Well, look at it this way: if it wasn't for that place, we wouldn't know anything about Mr. Miyagi, would we?
No, not a thing. Not a thing. I'll specifically say Europe, but there's another little one tucked away in there as well.
Do you think it's funny how, as we get a little bit older, a lot of people put travel on their bucket list?
Yeah.
Do you think that's because they know that the clock is ticking?
I don't know whether it's to do with the clock is ticking. I think when I think about what drives me to be there, I think it's just, I suppose I've only got, I've just clicked over 50. So I guess I've got anywhere between 30 and 50 years to get myself over there. And the sooner is better than later because I'm more mobile. And as we know, we get older, we get less mobile. And less
Yes, we did.
opportunities come before us.
Mm.
So, you know, yeah, getting over there in the next 20 years would be something I'd really like to knock over.
I think that's totally possible, isn't it?
Yeah, and only for that sort of reason. Not, well, I guess it is because the clock is ticking, you know.
Yeah.
To come back to that, I'm not concerned about that, but you know, it's on the bucket list. This is something I'm going to knock over.
Well, I think you're similar to me because, like, when you, like you said, you were doing, I guess you'd say, the adult things while other people were over traveling. I was probably exactly the same. Like I didn't go overseas for the first time till I was 32.
Mm.
Whereas I had mates that were going over almost straight out of high school, but I was working and doing all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I probably could have gone if I'd applied myself, but now I feel like I'm catching up. You know, I'm trying to, you know, and again, I don't think I'm going to kick the bucket tomorrow, but I don't want to waste any more time and try and get over there as much as I can.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Still quite a lot of bands to see as well, Kyle.
Well,
Yeah, there's some bucket list bands that I'm like, man, I must see these bands.
I do, and for me, I have bucket list events. Like, I really want to go to. I want to go to Glastonbury one year. I want to go to Coachella one year. Go to Reading if it's still around. Things like that. They're like, you know, I want to go to a Super Bowl, but just to see the halftime show. I don't really follow NFL, but I just see the spectacle of those halftime shows.
Yeah.
Like you've done something that's on my bucket list. I want to go and see a grand final at the G.
Oh, man.
Because, and it's for no other reason that my background, I see those stadiums and I see those events, and that's just something that really appeals to me, just seeing that sort of spectacle, because that's double the size of the largest stadium I've ever worked in.
You know, and going to a winning grand final and seeing it in the way that I saw it was like a pinch me moment, because I spent so many years following this team that wasn't that good, and
Yeah.
you know, the whole thing. One day I will, and all these other people go to the grand final, and I'm sort of saying, I'm not going until the Tigers are in the grand final.
Mm.
Well, it's that true. My first grand final I went to, and I got seats right on the fence, and I'm sitting there with my son and my nephew, and I'm crying my eyes out. I'm going, I can't believe this is happening. We won. You know, it was bananas.
But do you think, and then for those who don't know, Mr. Smedley is an avid Richmond Tigers supporter. Hawthorn, not so much. Definitely Tigers. Sorry, I just swore, Peter. Didn't I? I thought you were about to give me the finger then. But would that have been a bucket list until this time last year?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't last year. It was 2017 that we won the first one. But yes, it was, firmly.
And like you said, it's just that thing where you go, I can't believe this is happening. So, yeah.
It's funny also, I'll share something with you that not many people know, is that one year my sister had an absolute ball terror of a 40th birthday party up on the Gold Coast. This party went for 2 days, Kyle.
Oh, God.
It was a big party. It was where the furniture ended up in the pool. Let's put it that way. Anyway, it was a wild party. And my wife, now we weren't married back then, but we jumped on a plane and flew home from the Gold Coast. And I was having one of those inspirational moments, like, I got so much to do in my life, and my head's flying a little bit. So she handed me her green diary, and I sat there and wrote out a wish list of all the things that I wanted to happen in my life. And this is still in the cupboard here today.
How good is that?
Now I read through it, and I've done so many of them.
Yeah.
You know, the Tigers grand final was one. Having a son was another one. Running a music festival was another one. I'm like, oh.
But that's really good. And that's like, I've been talking to people about doing bucket lists lately. And like, maybe, like you said, you put it somewhere and you can look back and you go, I've done. And this is why, you know, you do have those people that go, I've done nothing with my life. And then you stop and just write down all these things you've done.
Yeah.
And you sit back and you go, oh, Jesus Christ, yeah, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's about obviously backing yourself and just looking at what you've done and gone, that really does matter. Like, you've done all these amazing things.
One of my most powerful affirmations. one of my most powerful affirmations that I like to share with people, especially when people are saying, oh, I hope one day I'll do this, or I hope one day that'll happen, is think and it will manifest, speak and it will become.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you think about something and you've got a bit of an idea, be brave enough to talk about it, and you'll find people gravitate towards what you're saying. And with that, it starts to head out and somebody knows and they'll help you along the way. And next thing you know, you're in that place.
Yeah. It's just a matter of getting in and doing it. Like, and again, it's funny, like the amount of things that seem so hard, and then when you do them and you go, that actually wasn't that bad. I could do that again. It's like the first time I went to Thailand, it was such a process. The last time it was, oh yeah, okay, yep. It just becomes just this thing.
Yeah.
But no, that's really good. Now, all right, here we go. So the current situation in the world, how is it affecting Pete Smedley? 3, 2, 1, go.
I was one of the first people to be told I couldn't do my job anymore. So I operate my martial arts schools out of 3 separate halls. One of them being council owned and operated, the other 2 inside schools. The council one was the first one to go. On the night that I was due to teach classes, or on the afternoon that I was due to teach classes that night, I got an email from the council saying, can't use the hall until further notice. I went, what? And I rang them up and I said, what, even tonight? They said, yes, cancel everything. And I went, wow, okay. You know, that's never happened before. This has never happened before. So,
No.
you know, who was I to go crooked? I'm not at all.
Yeah.
And then it was only like a matter of days before the schools removed all of those external events and interactions with people as well. So all my classes stopped and ground to a halt within probably 10 days.
And so you went basically from you went from 1,000 back to 0.
Yeah.
And so where are you at now with it? And I guess probably 2 things. How are you adapting, and how do you see us as a people adapting out of this when we are going back to whatever a normal life is?
I think the main thing is that we get a real chance to have a good look at ourselves and see what we're capable of as humans.
Mm-hmm.
I reflect upon what I did. Doesn't mean everybody should do what I did, but I automatically sprung into gear and thought, right, what am I going to do about this? You know, so, you know, I started creating online videos before I even released them. I started filming even in the last classes up at Red Hill. I started filming that night and tucking things away.
Yeah.
And now I provide an online service to my students and have been doing that ever since I stopped. So I guess I look back at it and think, I'm sort of proud of myself that I didn't just sit back and go, oh, well, that's it for me. I can't do anything. And actually, you know, got my ass into gear and did something for myself, for everybody else as well, you know. And you know, not everybody has the same nature. Other people react in different ways as well. But drawing back and concluding what I'm saying is that we get to look back at our actions from the start all the way through this COVID episode, and when we make it through out the other side, people can look back in retrospect and say, well, I didn't do too bad a job, or I reacted in a certain way, or geez, I'd do it differently again. But we're getting a period now that has a really, really strong influence on society, community, the planet, and how do we react, and what do we do about it, and what are we learning about ourselves in this process?
And do you think when it all comes to be, will the way Peter Smedley and the Smedley household conduct their lives, will it be a little bit different, or are you itching to get back to what you had?
I don't feel it's terribly different right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still really motivated.
It's funny, people say to me I'm unemployed. I go, no, I'm not. I'm still working. I got heaps of shit to do.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. You know, my kids are currently doing their online schooling right now, and they know that when it gets near 3 o'clock, whether they finish or not, I'm going to say, right, down tools, go and pick up a basketball, go ride a bike, go walk the dog, kick the footy, do whatever you want to do. But that's it. School's done. Knock off.
Yeah.
You know, You know, we spoke to them. My wife and I spoke to them about it earlier and said, here's our routine when we go into this thing, because we could see that school was going to finish up.
Mm.
That once we get past school holidays and we come out the other side, we're going to need some kind of routine. So we drew it out, and it's on the wall in the kitchen. And the kids understand this, you know. 9 o'clock, school is in. Make sure your breakfast is done, the dishwasher's empty, just like it normally is, and click yourself into gear. You're going to go for it all day. There'll be a lunch break in the middle, and I'm here to support you and help you. But at the same time, I'm going to be working as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll like.
You're in week 2 now, aren't you?
Of lockdown?
Of school?
Of school. Yeah, we are. Week 2 of school, yeah.
So for those, there'll be a delay on putting this out, but for those at home, it's the 22nd of April. So Queensland schools are in day 3, and you guys are in week 1 and 3 days, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
So you're starting to get probably a little bit of an online school routine now, aren't you?
Yeah, gee, the first 2 or 3 days, teachers, the schools, the education department are all scratching around all over the place trying to get some format.
To be standard.
Yeah, you know, and while you couldn't be cranky at them because it was brand new for them as well, you know.
Well, this is the thing when we've got parents or whatever, and I have much sympathy. I've got friends who are teachers, and that it's new territory for all of us. But like you were saying about the kids downing tools and going out in the backyard and that sort of thing, I was talking to someone yesterday, and they said they live in a cul-de-sac, and they said the afternoons it's like the 50s, where the kids were out on the bikes and they're kicking the footy around, and you know, he said it's maybe one thing we're taking out. We're just so happy to just be outside, like we've, you know, because that's been taken away from us to an extent. We're just craving to get outside. I mean, and we're not as bad as other countries. We can still do that. But yeah, there's a big park down the road from me, and all within social distancing rules. But yeah, it's busy in the afternoons, and I wonder what that's going to be like when we're told we can go back to normality. I hope it stays something similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's good, Pete. I think it sounds to me like you've got quite a handle on it, mate.
Yeah, I think that up and down days, probably more up days than down. I reckon there's probably, I was talking to you yesterday.
Yeah.
And I reckon I've had 2 days where I've been a bit shabby and a bit all over the place.
And I think you have the right to have those.
Yeah.
I don't think you're expected to, you're not expected to just be a ray of sunshine every single day. But in our position, sometimes we've got to put that aside, because there's people that look to us for, I guess, a little bit of inspiration, for want of a better word.
Yeah, and I think being a martial artist, and, you know, you'll relate to this completely as well, is that martial arts teaches you mindfulness. You know, and I know that's the magic word for everything, but mindfulness means that you are tuned into what's going on with you.
Yeah.
Not only physically, like my body hurts or my shoulder hurts, or you know, or you know, but how is your mind going as well? And as soon as I start feeling that negative cycle going on, I do something about it. You know, so when I had my rough days or whatever, I really started like making sure I looked after myself. I take myself for a long exercise, make sure I eat well, and I get myself into bed nice and early.
Yeah.
And I would know that I'd crack out of bed the next day and say, right, how do I feel now? And
yeah,
9.7 times out of 10, Kyl, I feel great.
And that's the key, mate. For me, it seems to be exactly the same for us. It's food, sleep, exercise. If those 3 are on point, then everything else is good. But if one of them is off, everything's off.
Yeah.
They all play a part. But Mr. Smedley, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you were my first test subject. And thank you for your guidance, because I appreciate the call over a bit of honey wild turkey, and for me it was a beautiful beer from Slipstream Brewery, shameless plug, that we had the other night having a chat about it. But if people want to get in touch with you and find out a little bit more about you, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Any details or that sort of thing?
Oh, I guess the multimedia platform of Facebook is probably the easiest way.
Mm-hmm.
A little profile on LinkedIn as well, where I suppose I promote the MC work that I do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not completely up to date, but I think you can find me around on if you just Google my name a little bit. You'll probably find Peter Smedley, the millionaire, in there, and that's not me. I actually received some mail of his one day, and actually,
Shut up. That's funny.
yeah, and
Wasn't a check.
There's a couple of other instances where my namesake and I, we've never actually spoken because he's one of those people that has a secretary and an assistant to the secretary.
Does he live around the area? How did you get his mail?
He lives in Brighton, and when I was living up in that area, some of his mail turned up at my place.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and 3RW actually rang me up one day in Melbourne and said, Peter Smedley. I said, yes. I would like to get your opinion on, what was it? I think it was on, what's the name of the pig's ass guy? The Carlton guy who used to run pig's ass, you know, that bloke.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
Big nose. They used to do a parody of him all the time. Anyway, they wanted my opinion. John Elliott.
Yeah.
John Elliott. They said, we'd like your opinion on John Elliott and his overthrowing of the board at wherever it was at the time. And I said, I reckon I could give you my opinion, but I don't think you really need it. I think you need the other Peter Smedley.
That's funny. No, you should have just gone along with it. Next time, you got to do that.
Yeah, running right up. I could say something right out of order and he'd be like, what's he saying?
That'd be great. I'd listen to it. It's better than half the shit on commercial radio at the moment.
Hey, thanks for having me on for the very first time. I feel honoured that you've asked me as the first person you've done this with. And I'd encourage people to tune into what you're doing, Kyl, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Thank you, sir. So, guys, this will be an ongoing thing. You can get in touch with, so Peter's dojos is amphibian dojos, and he's a member of Bob Jones Martial Arts in Victoria. This will be an ongoing thing that we will have guests at regular intervals from all sorts of walks of life. But Peter, I would like to thank you very much. I love the way you have suddenly put your chest up with that amphibian dojos.
I don't know what you're talking about.
At least we can't see the mohawk, I guess. But, I would like to thank you very much for your time, my friend. And if anybody has any other questions for Peter, please don't hesitate to ask. Thanks, mate. We will see you very shortly.
Thanks for having me, Kyl.
I'm just working out.